Hey guys, welcome back to Hardcore, the HD podcast, or Human Design, for those of you who don't know what the HD stands for. I'm Celestina. Miko's over there having a good laugh. Welcome, Miko.
Hey everyone.
I feel like to give you guys some preface on this episode, it is Thursday morning my time, Wednesday night Miko's time, and we are recording this to come out in T-minus 10 hours for you, because we are both heavily ego-defined, obviously, as both ego authorities, and we were like, dude, we need to get this episode out, and we didn't intentionally wait for the last minute, but now we're here, and we're getting it done. I am not fully through my coffee this morning, and Miko has been up for God knows how long, and we're getting it out there for you guys, so bear with us today.
Yes, and Celestina is going to have a fun time editing this episode with all the ums and pauses and moments to think about things. Hopefully not, but let's see how it goes.
I prefer the silent moments to think about things over pauses and ums completely. So if you can just contemplate life for a good 30 seconds instead of saying today, I think that'll be really good.
I'll give it my best.
Just Barack Obama this shit.
Done. Giving you the pauses
All right,
already.
Perfect. So this was a really long intro into our discussion today about incarnation crosses and quarters, and then we're going to break down a person each and look at their incarnation cross, and I'm super stoked about this episode. We're going to do our best to make it succinct, but we shall see, just based off of today's nature of the both of us being a bit not awake / tired, respectively. But Miko, I'm going to have you start us off with kind of a higher overview of incarnation crosses, and yeah, have fun, girly.
So, incarnation crosses. Thank you very much for that intro, by the way. Well done. And incarnation crosses are basically known as your life purpose. So it consists of looking at the conscious sun and conscious earth aspect and the unconscious sun and unconscious earth aspect. So if we haven't mentioned that yet, the conscious aspect of your chart, so everything that is black in your chart, all the lines that are black in your chart, those are taken from the moment you were born, and that's also why it's so important to have the exact birth time. And everything that is red in your chart comes from approximately 88 days / 88 degrees before you were born. So that would provide you with the unconscious aspect in your chart. And if you take both of these things together, conscious earth, conscious sun, unconscious earth, unconscious sun, that creates a cross in your human design chart. So for everyone that is watching, you can see the incarnation cross here. So you will see the exact opposite of the chart is the conscious earth and the conscious sun are on the exact opposite sides. And same with the unconscious earth and unconscious sides. Unconscious sun. And this will always be the same case with every single incarnation cross. And this is pretty much what we're going to be focusing on today, because we thought about actually focusing on one specific topic for each episode. Sometimes we will be focusing on a person, other times, in this case, we wanted to focus on releasing your full potential, basically, and aspects in your chart that you can look at. So the incarnation cross is just one aspect of what you can look at. And as always, you need to take the full chart into consideration, because it all plays into each other and everything influences each other. And if you don't have a professional human design reader looking at your chart, then you may misinterpret what is more important and what is less important, because sometimes some things trump other aspects in your chart. So for example, the formatting channels Those are the 3 channels that are in between the sacral and the root. Those are extremely powerful channels, and they override a lot of the things that are happening in your chart. They may not cancel it out entirely, but they just give an extremely strong flavor to the whole chart. And as well with the incarnation crosses, which we're going to mainly be focusing on, this gives you an idea of what your purpose may be in life. It's never going to tell you you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, you should be veterinarian. It's just going to give you insights into what your purpose could be in life. And you can use everything that is mentioned in your chart in any kind of job. However, when you're taking the whole chart into consideration, there is a way to narrow it all down so that you will really find what satisfies you fully. And with the incarnation cross as well, you always also take a deeper look at the north node and the south node in your chart, because those are the environments. Today we're not focusing on that, but I just wanted to mention that in order to fulfill your purpose, you also need to be in the correct environment. And this is not connected, or not just connected to the environment aspect that you will find in your human design, that is cave, markets, shores, things like that. But it is actually looking at the specific north node and south node gates, once for your physical environment, your body, and once for your personality. So these 2 also play a part in being able to fulfill your full potential. And now I will hand over to Celestina and see what else she would like to add to this topic.
I was going to ask you if you can elaborate more, because it confused me when I first looked at my chart. So left angle crosses versus right angle crosses versus a cross of juxtaposition. Is that visible? I mean, I know now what that means, but for someone who's just starting to look at their chart, how would they know, other than like reading it on their chart, if they have a left, a right, or a juxtaposed cross? Also, I love juxtaposition. It's one of my favorite SAT words.
Very good question. And yes, there is a way to see this. So as you can see in this example, which Celestina is going to talk about later, I have no idea who that is. This is the first time I'm actually seeing his chart. So we'll dive deeper into Tyler Henry's chart in a little bit. But here you can see that he has a right angle cross of Maya. So let's just ignore the of Maya part, or whichever part is written in your cross, but let's focus on right angle, left angle, or as Celestina mentioned, juxtaposition. So the right angle cross, you look at your profile. So those are the lines in your conscious personality, sun and earth. In this case, it would be 62.3, that's the line, and 61.3. So that's the sun, the personality sun in Tyler Henry's design. And you can see the line, the 0.3, is the same in the personality side. On the other side, the design side, we have in the unconscious earth 42.5. 0.5 is the line. And we have 32.5 in the unconscious sun. So we have, therefore, you always take the personality first. You have a 3rd line personality and a 5th line body. And your first number, if it's smaller than your right side number, then it's a right angle cross. If it's vice versa, so if the first number in your profile is bigger than the second number, then you have a left angle cross. And this is an example of a juxtaposition cross. Well, in this case, the juxtaposition cross of the now. So as you can see, it's a 4-1 profile. And the 4-1 profile will always be a juxtaposition cross. It's the only one that will be a juxtaposition cross. It's the only profile. And a juxtaposition cross is very, very fixed in its way. So we have the right angle cross, which is pretty focused on their own purpose in life. So it's really about becoming the best version of yourself, but really it's a more self-centered aspect where you don't really need other people around you. So it is said that as a right angle cross, that's a very generalized way to say it, but it is said that you could live on the top of the mountain by yourself and still fulfill your purpose. A left angle cross could not do that. So a left angle cross is here to work with others in a sense that maybe they are here to guide others, maybe they are here to have projects with other individuals. They are often individuals who also have, not always, but often, they also have their gates coming out of undefined centers. So that also increases the need to have other people to fulfill your full potential. And a juxtaposition cross is really someone that they are a certain way and you cannot change them. And you shouldn't even try changing them. So if you are in a relationship or if you have a friend that is a juxtaposition cross, they are the way that they are and they're not here to change that. They're here to stand strong between the left angle and the right angle cross individuals, and they're also here to be some kind of a bridge between these two.
I feel like it'd be really cool now, having heard this piece of it, if you guys want to pause this, go back to the profile episodes, or rather profile episode, and listen to Miko's explanation of like the house and the different profile levels in the house. I feel like this will coincide with that really well and will make a lot more sense, because as you were saying that, I was picturing the house and the different profiles and the different lines, and I feel like that is super helpful to understand this better. So if you haven't done that, go do that.
Absolutely correct, yes. And that also gives me another idea where the right angle cross is often described as playing in their own. So imagine you have a playground which is full of sand, and the right angle cross is just building their own little castle, minding their own business, just focusing on their little thing. And then you have other kids going around in between those right angle crosses, and they're kind of controlling or checking or just maybe asking them if they need support in something. But they're going from one right angle cross to the next. So it's kind of like just checking on them and not controlling them, but maybe just giving some support, or it really depends on your cross, but it's basically just showing you that the right angles are focused on their own thing and the left angles just go around from one to the next.
It's really cool to see this, have this insight, and then also think about people in my life and also think about like little me. Like as you were saying this, I was just like thinking about like myself in kindergarten and like interactions with other humans in kindergarten, because I feel like that's when we're least adultered, you know, and like not in like a sexual way, in like a by society kind of way, you know.
Yeah, not so conditioned a lot of times.
Yeah,
if we're lucky.
For real. Okay, I feel like that's a great basis with which to start this. Do you feel like there's anything else? I mean, let's be real. The rabbit hole is deep. There's 4 books on this, guys. But keeping it high level. You think we're good?
There are many more books on this, because we're talking about the sun and the earth and the north and the south node. And I mean, okay, if we just focus on the sun and the earth, if you just go to color tones and bases of that element, it's just, yeah, definitely a rabbit hole.
Okay, so we'll keep this fairly high level for now. And you have a pretty good idea of what the Incarnation Cross is. I think the other important note here, though, is when you do learn about your Incarnation Cross, it's not like you have to like go out every day being like, this is my life's purpose, I must live out my life's purpose, and have to think about your Incarnation Cross every day. If you're focusing on your strategy and authority within your human design, and you're truly listening to that, this will happen inherently, which is really cool, right? So Don't feel like you have to hardcore focus on your incarnation cross on a daily basis and you have to like unweave whatever it is you're trying to gather from this. I think it's great to know what your incarnation cross is. It's good to know how to read it and a little bit of information about it. But really going back to the strategy and authority piece is so, so, so key in everything human design related, right? So it's good to know, but also go back into yourself and really get a sense of what a hell yes feels like, what a heart pull feels like, what a no feels like, what that splenic intuition feels like, what that emotional pull feels like, or rather that emotional wave, what waiting 28 days feels like, that lunar cycle, what mental projecting onto someone else feels like, what self-projecting onto someone else feels like, right? Like, get a feeling of what that feels like for you and do that on a regular basis. And then this will come with time. So just a little reminder there.
Yeah, good call. Especially because a lot of times when you start learning about human design, you do tend to lose yourself in the rabbit hole without doing the actual work. And human design really is about stepping out of the mind, which we have been trained to do from the get-go. I mean, we start school and we have to use the mind to make decisions. For example, in maths, you have to decide, okay, what is the right answer? And we never really learn about our intuition, only way later down the line. I mean, if you're not lucky enough to have hippy-dippy parents who love to just tickle that out of you, this intuition. But if you don't, if you're born and raised in a very traditional household or a very mind-oriented household, and you just go the traditional route of going to school, going to university, and starting your job, you have not learned how to use your intuition. You've directly been catapulted into using your mind. And yeah, I think this is where the school system, or just generally our educational system, really needs to be rethought and re-evaluated. I mean, I once read about when I was doing my sleep meditation, I recorded a sleep meditation, and I wanted to use all the most potent, most powerful tools to help someone fall asleep. And that's a mix of breathing exercises, it's a mix of frequencies and vibrations. And it's also, I stumbled upon a monk, I don't remember his name, but he was saying that we never learn to sleep. And this is something that should come very instinctively and intuitively, and it may happen at the beginning when you're very little. But as an adult, there are so many people who struggle to sleep, and we don't learn how to fall asleep. And in that sleep meditation, I'm also teaching the technique, or I'm speaking about the technique, or I'm guiding someone with that technique into sleep. And I thought this is such a fascinating aspect, because there are things that we should intuitively do, like a monkey baby. They intuitively know exactly what to eat and what not to eat. But us as humans, we are pretty much doing what our parents think we should eat from the get-go. So, yeah, we really need to first declutter ourselves from all this conditioning, and that can take years. So this journey can take years for you to simply just be able to tune into your intuition.
And I think with that, right, like it can be frustrating to kind of show up every day and do that. But I think the more, not even the more you learn, but the more you can peel back those layers, like your personal layers, and do the hard work, the more in tune it becomes. I'm not going to say easier, because it's always still a journey, right? There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be some things that hit you really hard and you're going to have to like really sit with for a hot minute.
And throw you back.
And throw you back, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that doesn't mean that you haven't progressed. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah. Deep, guys. We'll also drop the link for Miko's sleep meditation in the show notes if you guys are interested in that as well. All right. Do you want to start off with your person? Because I'm excited to see how you present this. Because every time we've done something like this, I go first, and I feel like we follow the model that I have. But I'd love to see your approach with this, because I took so many notes for Tyler. Obviously, we're always on a first name basis with my people, but I'd love to see how you approach this.
So already choosing the person or the people was a bit of a challenge. So we first talked about this, and then I said, okay, this is going to be a great way to also share a little bit about ourselves and our personal journey, and also how we kind of worked with the information that we received from human design, and how much we're actually already living the purpose that we're here to fulfill. And so this is kind of where this whole idea also came from. And for me, my incarnation cross is the cross of individualism, the left angle cross of individualism. So one more thing that I wanted to mention now that I'm looking at this is that within the crosses, you can have gates. So the 4 gates that are within a cross, they can be in different positions. So they don't have to always be the 38, in my case, doesn't have to be in your personality sun to be a cross of individualism. So that will also depend on where your numbers are located, in which planet, or which planet is actually located within the gate, let's say it correctly. And that will also determine your cross. So it could be, there are different numbers for different crosses as well. Sometimes you would have the same cross, just cross number 1, cross number 2, something like this. And this also plays a big role in how you're going to be expressing this cross. So in my case, the left angle cross of individualism was my first kind of inspiration, of course, to do this. And this cross is very much connected to being an individual, of course, but also being quite shocking in the way that I go about life. So my actions can be quite shocking to other people when looking at it, but I'm also here to kind of shock people into being their truest, most authentic self. So instead of then going into people that have this cross as well, I was kind of thinking, okay, who is someone that I believe is quite aligned in who they already are? And I came up with quite a few people that just popped into my mind, and one was Jane Goodall, and the other person was the Dalai Lama. Because the Dalai Lama is someone that is continuously focusing on meditation and self-development and gratitude and happiness. So he is someone that is really deeply involved into connecting with his true self. And Jane Goodall is someone that I felt has always followed her passion in life. She is someone that spent a lot of time in nature. And if you're spending so much time in nature and surrounded by animals, so in her case, I think it's, oh my God, was it gorillas or chimpanzees? I think it was chimpanzees, right? Maybe both, I don't know. But she was surrounded by these apes, and she spent a lot of time in nature observing them. So she had a lot of time to kind of be in this meditative state, in this very pure and raw state as well, because I feel you can learn so much from animals because they are still so instinctual and also, of course, very connected to themselves in a very different way, which we may not consider as being intelligent. I know that a lot of people still consider animals not to have emotions, which I think is completely not true. I feel like animals have so many emotions, and if you haven't been raised around animals, you may not really understand that. But the point here is that Jane Goodall had so much time surrounded by one of the things, or the thing, that to me is the manifestation of source in form. So to me, nature is basically the manifestation of source, of God, of spirit, of Allah, of Krishna, or of however you want to call him, it, her. But yeah, basically nature to me is the purest form that has a physical shape. So she was constantly surrounded by that. And then I was also thinking about Lady Di. I don't know why she came into my mind, but she has always been someone that was always, over and over, she comes back into my thoughts. And somehow I then checked all of these individuals and their human design, and I saw that they all have the cross of tension. And those were the only 3 people that I had added into the search for this human design episode. And I was like, this is just crazy. They are all having the same cross. So you can see here, if you're watching, the Dalai Lama.
2 seconds. I gotta ask. Yes. I gotta ask. Did you have a heart pull to choose all 3 of these people?
Yeah, they just came to me, and I was like, okay. I do love Lady Di's personality and story. Like, sadly, not the end of the story, of course. And the Dalai Lama and Jane Goodall they came to me because of the reasons that I've mentioned. So I felt like they were probably people that I felt are very famous, but also very connected to themselves.
So freaking cool. Yeah. Okay, continue. I'm excited.
So I was blown away when I saw that all 3 of them had the cross of tension. I didn't understand it myself, but there's something about this cross that I apparently really admire and look up to. And many people do, apparently, because I think, all 3 personalities have a very big following, and they're still very different in who they are and what they stand for. But the cross of tension is a cross that is provocative, and it's not necessarily actively provocative, but it's basically simply being present on this planet will provoke people. And it will provoke them in a way. So it's also known as the cross of service, not the cross of service. There's also a cross of service that is called cross of service, but it's also known as a cross of service because it is about provoking people and shaking them up and shaking them awake and be like, hey, what are you doing? Something needs to change. Something is not working right. And if you're looking at all of these people, they do have that in common, in my opinion, in different ways, but they do all share this. So the Dalai Lama, for example, has the 39.4 in his conscious sun. So this is a gate that comes out of the root center. It's filled with a lot of pressure. And in his case, he has a defined root. So that means that both his conscious sun and his conscious earth, which is in the 38.4, they have a consistent energy flow towards it because he is defining it himself. However, it is his root is unconsciously defined and connected to the sacral with a 360 channel, a formatting channel. Very powerful channel, as I've mentioned. But it also already shows you that from a personality aspect, he's pretty clear on his purpose and his path in life. Again, you can see that this is not telling you have to go into a specific job direction, but it is showing you what makes you, in his case, feel satisfied. So what is making him feel satisfied? And that is to provoke a reaction out of people. So the 39th gate in his sun, and that's also how he shines his light. When you look at your personality sun, this is something where when you're really living this, you will shine through this. So his way was to provoke people into feeling something, but he, of course, does it in a more subtle way than, in my opinion, Lady Di. So he has the line 4, which is temperance. And that is really about being careful, like being more gentle and more careful before taking action. Whereas Lady Di, when you look at hers, she also has it in her conscious sun, the 39th gate, but she has line 1. And that is really more of a provocative energy, which I also found interesting, especially because with Lady Di, what I then did is, because I know that the birth of Prince Harry made a big difference in her life. And that is because they create a connection for Lady Di to her throat, from her emotional solar plexus to her throat. So you can see here, if you're looking at it, there is no connection to her throat, but with Prince Harry, the connection comes in. And this is when she started to really speak up for herself and speak up for what she really wanted. And to me, this again shows you how important it is to consider who you surround yourself with. And in this case, of course, this was a child that was born to her, but you can see that simply depending on who surrounds you, your life path can also change. And the way that you express yourself, the way that you share that aspect about yourself also change. So just a little very short nudge into Prince Harry, just to show you that when you're looking at her past history and you can see how much she changes after he is born, it all makes sense when you're looking at this in a deeper way. And we're just really not even scratching the surface here. I'm just teasing you guys right now, basically. But I just found that super interesting, how much it changed for her after he was born, and how much more she was able to express herself, express what she really wanted. And you can really see the differences in energies for Lady Di, for example, for the Dalai Lama, and also for Jane Goodall, where for Jane Goodall, she has the 38.6 in her unconscious sun and the 39.6 in her unconscious earth. So for her, it's reversed. It's not in her personality, but it's in her physical, in her design aspect. So they still have the same right angle cross of tension. Well, yeah, they all have the right angle cross of tension. But it still is going to express itself very differently. So make sure to also take a closer look to this within your chart, which gate is placed, because your conscious and unconscious is going to make a difference, and the earth and the sun is going to make a difference. So just as a rough overview, the sun is where you shine your light, and the earth is where you feel grounded. And you shine your light through your personality in your conscious sun, and you ground yourself for your personality in your conscious earth. And you do the same in the unconscious sun. You shine your light through the physical aspects. And in your unconscious earth, this is something that would ground your physical body. So this is kind of how I went down the rabbit hole. And then I also looked up who has a similar cross to mine. So then I came to Alan Watts, and he is someone that I find so amazing, because if you've not listened to anything of his yet, if you've never heard him speak, he's just so fascinating to listen to. And especially, I don't know who started doing that, but someone started to underline, like play some music while he's speaking. So it's very, very old recordings, because yeah, he was born in 1915. So that's a very long time ago. And the recordings are also very old. But you can hear in his voice how fascinating it is. And he does have the 22nd gate defined the 12th gate, sorry, defined in an unconscious throat. And that is the gate that is about being in the mood to speak. And when you are in the mood to speak, you can change people's lives dramatically. And one of his favorite topics to talk about, of course, as it is mine, is how to release your personal full potential by being your most beautiful, unique self. And he's also a 6'2". He's a generator, however. But it's just so fascinating to see. I really align a lot with what he's saying. And when I look at his chart, the aspects that he does have and that I share with him, it's very similar to what I believe as well.
You went hardcore in your research. I texted Miko like 20 minutes before we started. I was like, research done. I usually don't wait till the last minute, but did it. And she's like, wow, you're going to be way more prepared than I am. You just went over like 6 charts, dude.
Yeah, but it was just the tip of the iceberg. It's not, I didn't really, it just happened, I was like, okay, who do I think is probably quite aligned? And then it just went from one to the next. Okay, Lady Di didn't really get the chance to fully align, I think, because she was also very conditioned by her environment. But she's definitely someone that I've always looked up to. And then I was like, okay, let's just go focus back. Bring your focus back. And then I was like, okay, who has the same one as I do? And then I went into the next rabbit hole. As it is. You know how it is.
I do know how it is. This was awesome, though. I love the parallels that you pulled from each of them and how it resonates with you specifically. I wonder, because, okay, little tangent right now, but like most of the people in my life have 2, 4, and 6 profiles. I very infrequently have people in my life with a 1, 3, or 5 line. And I wonder how much of that is we resonate with, or I resonate with people who just happen to have even number profiles, but also how this could potentially be like the incarnation crosses aligning in that way too, to some extent, right? Like you just happen to really vibe. You haven't met any of them in person, but like you happen to really vibe with them, So I wonder how much of that is like the energetic resonance of like bringing people together who actually vibe. And I would love to see, I don't know if you've probably showed me our charts together, but
yes. And I also have your chart pulled up here because you also have tension about you in your chart. So I think I'm just resonating with people that have tension, like that like to provoke others, or just not even consciously sometimes, just being present and provoking people, just to snap out of it, basically.
Yeah, there's definitely a decent amount of that in my chart.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We're on my chart. Do you want to talk about me? I can talk about me too.
I just wanted to see if I can pull up our chart, but yeah.
I feel like a projector's favorite thing though is to like talk about someone else's chart and to look into someone else's chart. So I don't want to take that away from you if this is something that you're really feeling pulled towards.
It's okay. No, I would like to hear your personal perspective on your personal purpose.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. So it's as you guys can see, my one channel in my chart is literally the essence of me, which is crazy. So I'm I think unintentionally very in tune with my incarnation cross because it is my one channel. It is, you know what I mean? I don't know how else to explain it. I just feel very in tune with my incarnation cross. So anyway, we're going to break this down from my conscious sun, which is the 45.6, which is the gatherer, which I think is dope because in most jobs that I've had, this is what I think what comes out, obviously, right? Like it's 70% of my personality. This is what comes out. Basically, like I can bring a group together. I can choose that group and bring the group together. And I'm seeing that come into fruition in the current position that I'm holding and really knowing like who needs to be together and what that vibe will be like, and I can't understand, or rather, I can't explain it, like how I know how these people are gonna vibe. It's just this innate sense of like, okay, this person, I can see the skills in the person. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's a really good way to describe it. Being able to see the skills in a person and then bring other people in to be able to support them. Because for me, feeling supported above me and feeling supported below me is super key as a manifester, and also other pieces of my chart. But bringing people together as for the success of a group, I think is so key. And I'm really seeing that like come together. The other piece of this is I have a lot of tribal gates in my chart. So everything I do, it's here to protect my people. It's here to protect the community, to create harmony, to really put my people forward and to give them the resources that they need to succeed, which I also I also do a lot of. But it's really cool to see that as such a big part of who I am, if that makes sense.
And if you're friends with her, then she always carries some snacks in her purse for you.
I do that. I do have snacks. Yes. Also, that might be dietitian me.
No, that's you providing resources, keeping your people fed.
So my conscious earth is gate 26, and this is coming out of my ego, going towards my spleen. This is part of the marketing channel. I don't consider myself a marketer. However, this this allows me to like weave a story and I guess convince people of that I'm quote unquote selling, or I have what they need. And I've found that it resonates most with people when I'm talking about something that I'm super passionate about. If it's something that like I am not stoked on, they're not going to buy it. However, I think it also is really important to note that as a manifester, this one feels really interesting because I'm not for everyone. And there are some things that I've done that are too, is avant-garde the right word here? Probably. That are like, it's too forward thinking that it just hasn't caught up with the hoi polloi. Ooh, all of these SAT words today. But really though, like it hasn't caught up with like most of the people yet. So there are things that I've tried to sell, quote unquote, to people in my like entrepreneurship businesses that it just hasn't connected with people. So all of this to say is even with this gate, even with half of the marketing channel, people need to want it and need to know that they need it before you're like selling them this. So it's just it's very interesting. The other piece of it is feeling recognized with this, right? And if there's no recognition, it's really hard to continue. And like it pulls so much from my heart to be able to continue, right? So the recognition is huge with this, and also knowing when to turn on and when to turn off and resting, because as we've mentioned so many times before, you can't just run on willpower. And this gate in particular, I know takes literally all of my heart when I'm marketing or when I'm trying to pitch myself or trying to pitch something to someone. It takes my entire heart, and then I'm really tired. So it's just, I think it's knowing the essence of your chart and your incarnation cross can, by that I mean like knowing the gate intricacies can be really helpful in understanding the full picture. So those are two of my conscious parts, and I'll go a little bit quicker now on my unconscious sun. So my unconscious sun is gate 36.2, to transform, lead, and grow through times of emotional crises. And I like saying crises instead of crisis. I don't know why. But basically like helping others gain emotional clarity and really trying to remain steady through a time of turmoil. As I'm saying all of this, I'm seeing this unfold in my most recent position as like a manager of a restaurant that is an absolute shit show, or was an absolute shit show before I came in. So it's really interesting to be able to see all of this play out and to see, again, just by making aligned decisions, right? Like this job that I took, I had a heart pull towards, and making decisions from an I don't really give two shits perspective. I'm informing, I'm initiating, I'm being the manifester, the big, bold manifester I'm supposed to be, that I've always quelled myself to be, like, because of conditioning and societally. In this job, I literally have nothing to lose. If they fire me, whatever. So I've just been big, bold, and brazen. Ooh, great B words. And that has, I've seen more of the incarnation cross in myself come out because I've really not given a shit. But I do give a shit, if that makes sense. I give a shit, but I'm not censoring myself. How about that? That's probably more accurate. So it's just very interesting to see. The other important, such an important piece of gate 36, the crisis gate, is to have support, right? So to feel supported from above and to feel supported from below. I've said this already, but like support as a manifester, oh my God. And I'm sure support as like having this incarnation cross is just so freaking key. But if I don't feel like I have support in my world, it's really hard for me to, one, be nice to people and like not get angry, manifestor life be like, but also I just feel so much better when I know that there are people around me and I'm not just doing it on my own, right? All right. And last but not least, the unconscious earth. So this is a gate that's coming out of my undefined emotional center. So I think that that's really interesting. It allows me to feel vulnerable in moments, but also I feel like it allows me to have emotional awareness, right, of the feeling, moods, and sensitivity of myself, but also of others. And that I think is really helpful in being able to give people those resources, right? Just kind of going full to work through those points of like emotional crisis, and to also kind of maintain that buy-in, I guess, from people when I'm selling something or when I'm informing them of something that they potentially need. So it's really cool how this just happens to come, not just happens. It's really cool how this was designed to come together. Yeah, I think for me, I understand the gates and the way they come together better than the typical descriptions of the incarnation cross itself. So if you guys find that to be the case as well, put your gates together, look more into your gates, look at the high expression, look at the low expression of your gates, and that may make more sense than just looking at the typical explanations of your incarnation cross itself. Because if you just like look at the verbiage and you're like, oh yeah, the left angle cross of confrontation, that sounds terrible. I feel like some of the verbiage just like makes it sound not great, right? So break it down for yourself, and that may be more insightful. Thoughts?
Totally agree. And it's also a very important aspect that you just mentioned, because as you can see in Celestina's chart, or if you're listening, you heard that she has gate 6 and gate 36 coming out of her undefined emotional solar plexus. So those are both her unconscious sun and earth. And that means that she doesn't have consistent energy towards it. So this is also a very important aspect when you're looking at your incarnation cross, because that means that you cannot fulfill your purpose without this center being consistently defined in some way. Sometimes you may also feel, because of a planetary transit that lasts quite a long time, that you have more energy and more of the ability to fulfill your purpose than other times in your life, or you have someone that steps into your life that keeps defining it over and over again. So by looking at each individual gate, you're going to gain far more insights than just looking at, which is often just a paragraph of describing your incarnation cross. But by looking and understanding every single gate within your incarnation cross, the lines that are defined within your incarnation cross, as Celestina has mentioned already, the profile that you have just in general, really digging into what does that mean to have that profile. That is all going to help you a lot. And of course, big favorite of both of ours is to always look at the shadow aspects within your chart and within these planets, the sun and earth, conscious and unconscious, and the potential that resides within these aspects. So
Quick random note. I think I'm so brazen and bold, and I have access to this because the chef at the restaurant that I'm managing defines my emotional solar plexus. Dope.
yeah.
So cool. So on to my person. You haven't heard of him?
No,
Tyler Henry?
I don't think so.
Interesting. Okay.
I would have to
So
see him
Tyler
maybe?
Henry. You want to pull up a picture? It's up to you.
Maybe.
Google him real quick. Tyler Henry is the Hollywood medium, or
Oh.
yeah. So I love some hippy dippy, some let's talk to dead people kind of situation. I guess a little backstory on Tyler. He doesn't refer to this as like a skill. He calls it an ability that must be honored. It's not a gift. There you go. He doesn't call it a gift. But only with the right people can it become a gift. His knowing and his being able to speak to the other side, right? So I love that he used this because I've watched a lot of the Hollywood medium, and I also watched his like documentary, I think it was on Netflix like a couple of years back. I just love like the spiritual connection piece of things. Not that I'm like a super huge Tyler Henry fan, but I think it's so cool how connected he is and how aligned from the outside, right? How I perceive him, rather. So at the age of 10, he woke up and he like went to his mom. He's like, I just have this inner knowing that I think grandma's gonna pass. And as he was telling his mom this, his dad called him and let them know that his grandmother had just passed. So that was kind of his first awakening into this. And then I think it was when he was in school, probably a little bit older, he let his teacher know that someone in her life was going to pass, or like tried to communicate with her. So he was having these readings, these knowings, without really knowing what was happening. And I think the way he describes it is like having a vivid daydream and being able to connect with someone like through that daydream, but physically also having to be next to the person that person wanted to connect to. The verbiage that he's used, I think, is so interesting, right? An ability, not a gift, a knowingness, just kind of this inner knowingness, and then intuition, not logic. And I love that because, as you can see, he has an undefined spleen, undefined head, undefined ajna. So it's just really interesting the verbiage that he's using to describe himself and this process and the connection that he's having. I also really want to point out the way that he connects with someone else. If you guys have ever seen him on TV, he like has a notebook and he just like scribbles with a pen or a pencil to zone in, to tune in. And it's not like he goes into this trance at all, right? He's still very much present, but he does like a little scribble. And I thought this was really interesting because his cognition is touch, and finding something to do with your hands can provide you really powerful insight. I just think that's really cool. And Miko, you mentioned earlier, the environment that one is in when they are doing something is also very important. I took it upon myself earlier to look into his environment as well. His is caves. And it's not just about the physical space, but a lot of it is preferring intimacy, preferring one-on-one interactions, conversations in smaller groups. And like, yes, now that he's big, he like does large groups and like will read large groups of people, but he became the Hollywood medium because he started by doing these one-on-one sessions with people and really having that intimate small group conversation, being able to connect more deeply and authentically and intimately in these smaller spaces. So I just thought that all of that is super cool. Tyler has the right angle cross of Maya. And now that we know what he does, he is a medium. He has this inner knowing. He connects with people. He helps people connect with people on the other side, right? Sometimes he gives people messages of things that are going to be happening to them. And that could be the next day, that could be in the coming weeks. With this incarnation cross, it's kind of this internal pressure to know why, but not just the outward exploration of it, but the inner explanation of it. Maybe it's scientific, maybe it's religious, maybe it's spirituality, but just that inner knowing and helping, in his case in particular, helping other people gain that sense of inner knowing or having closure, which I think is so cool. The other really cool piece of this, so if we look at the three channels that come down from the head to the ajna, they're there to like think through why, right? So the 6447, the 6124, and basically that's the thought process center to like the taking in information center to the thought process center, right? So really trying to figure out why and to learn more. What I think is cool though is the right channel, the 53-4 is about like logic and scientific. The left channel, 6447, is kind of abstract, typically representing religion. And then the middle channel represents spirituality and the simple yet powerful connection to knowing on a personal level. And the two that he has gates in are the middle and the right. So the right, the logic and scientific, and then the middle, the pure spirituality and connection to knowing. So, poof, 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 brain explosion. I just think that that's really cool.
You want more explosion?
I would love more explosion.
He's got it in his Neptune. 61.5 and 61.3. So this is a lot about things that are veiled. So spirits and spirituality as well included. And the fifth line is being reflected upon. And the third line is making and breaking bonds. So the 61 in all of these things in the 61 channel, inner knowing. Yeah, just fascinating. He's born to be
so
this, also with
cool.
his undefined throat. I mean, he's just a pure channeler. Yeah, fascinating.
I have the chills. So, two more points, big points I want to make about this. With this incarnation cross, Tyler is here to bring the energy of the unknown into the known, right? Like, oh, is there going to be a fire tomorrow? I don't know. Boom, there was a fire tomorrow. If you guys saw that episode, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, it's taking this like undiscovered knowledge and just looking at it in a new way and bringing that inner knowing and being able to share it to people so that they can reevaluate their position to some extent, right? And like sometimes it's closure of not having spoken to the person who has passed, but sometimes it's about like information that this person needs to know about themselves or their lives. And I think that that's really beautiful because this gate is, or rather, this incarnation cross is driven by closure. And I think that that's so beautiful. I think I was watching this episode, or I was watching him on his show probably about a year ago when I started looking up his design. And the first thing that I read was that this cross is driven by closure, and it's there to help, I guess, people really understand the challenges that they may be facing or to drive and find that closure. And I thought, wow, he probably doesn't even know his design, but how cool is it that his external environment, right? Like his family has been so supportive with this and has really allowed this gift, this inner knowing of his to flourish, and now the impact that he can make with it. I know I didn't go into all the gates of this, but I think this one in particular you can see from the high above perspective, which I think is a cool juxtaposition, to how I explained my incarnation cross. But yeah, I just thought this was really cool when I looked it up, and I was like, dude, when you were like, we're talking about incarnation crosses, 100%, I was like, Tyler Henry, boom, done.
Yeah, you had your person very quickly. And when I started my research a few days later, I was like, how did she do that? How did she narrow it down? And now I know.
Because, right?
I already kind of mentioned it, but having this undefined head, ajna, and throat is giving him the free flow of information from source. And I strongly believe that everything is connected, just like Alan Watts, just to get back to him. But everything is connected, and our mind is just creating the separation, the illusion of separation. And therefore he can just, if he's in tune with himself and his purpose, then he can tap into all of this information freely, which he has been doing since he was 10 apparently. And it flows through his head, so the inspiration strikes him from the universe, from outside of him, goes through his ajna and into his throat, and that means he can also channel the voices or the way that they were speaking. So it's really a very medium-like design, at least that far. It doesn't mean that your design has to look like this to be a medium, but it makes sense when you look at his chart that he has the ability to do so. He also has a 3410, which is the energy, the sacral energy providing the self-love gate. So when he's channeling, I've never seen him do it. I didn't know who he was. When I saw his face just now, it rang a bell, but I've never seen him do anything. So I don't even know how it's ringing a bell. But he is probably also able to provide the safety and security kind of aspect to his clients because of this channel, the 3410, where he's making them feel a lot of care and self-love for him, that he has for himself potentially, if he's aware of this. And he's got the consistent energy to really provide for himself and care for himself. And if you have this in your design, the other person will also feel this and will also find the energy to do that for themselves as well. So he can really communicate to his clients in a way that will resonate with them. It's not just going to be some stranger kind of talking to them, but they will really feel like this is the actual person speaking to them from beyond. And he seems to have, because he has the root defined, so I always feel that when you are aligned and having the root defined does give you a certain feeling of feeling grounded. And with his fifth line in his unconscious design, earth and sun, he is as well being projected upon. So he also needs to be very mindful as to who he says yes to, who he takes on as a client. As he says, he's being very selective about this process. Some he can resonate with, others he cannot, and others he cannot make a connection with their loved ones, which makes total sense to me as well. Some people you just don't resonate with. And for this job, it's very important, and especially with him being a fifth line, also very, very important for him to make the right selections. Otherwise, people are going to feel like he will be their savior and he can just solve anything.
So good. Thank you for going deeper into that.
Just a little bit. No, but you already did a great job covering it. I mean, fantastic choice.
I think it was just really cool. So I think all of this to say, guys, is like he didn't go out seeking his incarnation cross, right? Like he made life decisions based off of, I'm assuming, his emotional waves that he may be in touch with, his really good environment that he's in, maybe some sacral decisions, like and allowing himself to really explore this. Again, not necessarily seeking out, well, my right angle cross is the right angle cross of Maya, so I gotta do all this. You know, it really comes down to your strategy, your authority, and then the life's purpose piece will come.
Yes. Perfect end to this beautiful episode. Wise words and what good reminder for the end again.
Alrighty, guys. Well, if you want the sleep meditation, check that out below. We have a link to it. And join us again next week, won't you?
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And see you soon. Bye.
Ciao.